All right. So I'm going to record this. Eric, nice to see you. Jim, Marcia. This is going to be a really quick thing. I'm going to talk about two things. I'm going to do an update. Oh, shoot. Let me see if I can get this going. I'm going to do a COVID-19 update, and then we're going to talk about leases, terminating leases, and it's going to be really quick and easy. This is being recorded, so if you've got any kind of questions, jump in here. I'm just going to kind of guide people through a couple things. A COVID-19 news update. This is coming from me, which I gave a bunch of information out last week or last month. It turned out right a couple weeks after that, they changed everything. So now there's new stuff. So this week, CDC has done new eviction guidelines. And it's pretty serious guidelines. I really didn't understand it until I read it, but it's pretty serious guidelines. It goes farther than the state guidelines, which is gone now, but this supersedes that. And it goes farther than the last federal guidelines. CDC has, no one can be evicted until January 1st, 2020. I have 2 evictions going right now. Both of them sitting at the judges, and they're not even touching it. And the one tenant hasn't paid me rent since January, probably February 1st. So she's practically going to live on my property for scot-free for a 4 year, and I can't do nothing about it. So just be mindful on that. So be careful with your tenants. Don't get moody with them, because they do have a lot of power once they find out. And then understand how to get them help. That's the main thing. So if I could caution anybody, especially with people who got like 3 or 4 properties, a few properties, be careful. I'm going to show you a couple things about the CDC thing that just blows my mind. This is being recorded. So if you get this, record this, pause it. This is the website that goes to the CDC order. And I'm going to show you how serious this is. I got a couple of these pulled up. This is the temporary halt on residential evictions. Can you see that okay, Jim? Just nod your head. I can see you. You say, okay. Temporary halt on residential evictions to prevent further. It's a long deal. But anyways, you scroll down to the bottom, findings and actions, criminal penalties. This is crazy. A fine no more than $100,000 if it doesn't result in a death, and 1 year in jail.
Hey, I'm sorry, but I can't read any of that. I'm only getting the top half of your COVID-19 news state.
COVID-19, let me see here. New share. Oh, that's why. I'm sorry. Wait a second. Right here. I got to share. I'm sorry. I'm getting used to this. Can you read that now?
Yeah.
The criminal penalties. Well, this is big.
Yeah.
I'll show you how big it is. This is, can you read that temporary halt? Yep. So this is the new thing. It's long-winded and all this, but you come down here to the bottom, criminal penalties. This is for real. No lie. $100,000, 1 year in jail up to, if nobody dies. If somebody dies, then $250,000, 1 year in jail, or both. And then if you're a big organization like me, you got to deal with this down here, 200,000 and then 500,000. That's some serious business if you go to evict somebody who's not supposed to be evicted during the CDC, all this good stuff. So just be careful and just understand that tenants, they have a lot of power right now as far as staying there. And it's too much to read through. I've gotten a discussion with Carl the other day. It's just like a batter back and forth about what we can and can't do. It doesn't matter if this is right or wrong, legal or illegal. All that matters is the judges are not going to do anything. So you're kind of bound anyways. And even if you can't get a judge to do something, the sheriffs aren't going to do the writ of possession. So if you can't get the sheriffs on your side or the judges on your side, you really can't do any kind of evictions, and you can't really do any kind of terminations of lease, which we're going to talk about today. But I do want to bring this to everybody's awareness that if they do this correctly and they send you the right paperwork, and the lady who I've got for a year who hasn't paid me, she's doing it correctly, just by the book, but she's lying about everything. But, you know, he said, she said. So you really can't say nothing. So just to kind of make you aware, I'm going to reshare. I just wanted to show you this. I'm going to go back to the other.
So before you leave this, can I ask?
Yeah.
So even if they can't prove that it's COVID related, you still can't evict them?
Okay. Well, I'm evicting somebody now, but you still need the judge to sign off on it. That's the problem you have. So this has nothing to do with the COVID. It does. They don't want. Okay, the way I'm interpreting it, the reason they did it is for a national emergency because they don't want to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. So if you look at this, temporary hold of residential evictions to prevent this further spread. So whether it's right or wrong, they don't want you to do it because they don't want, because by displacing that person, it's going to move in with other family members or get them in a different area, and they're going to start spreading that way. So to keep everybody still, that's my thinking of why they're doing this. Now, this is a federal CDC thing that came down from the top. I don't think it's legal, but again, to get back to the point, the only way you can get somebody out of your property is with the sheriff serving a writ of possession in the state of Florida. That's the only way. So before you get that writ, you got to get the judge to sign off on it. So whether this is good or bad, the judge has got to do it, and they're not doing it. They've got 2 of my evictions. They've had them for about 3 weeks now, and they're not doing anything with it. Like I said, the one lady, there's a specific letter they got to give out. It's in here. There's a letter. They have to attest that, by doing this, that they've been affected by the COVID-19. By doing this, they're going to be homeless. They got nowhere to go, and they've done everything right. And this lady, they're supposed to give me something or some sort of best effort. Well, she hasn't paid me a dime since February 1st. So I don't know what her best effort is, but she attested to it. So as long as she attests to it, then they're going to accept it. And I'm going to call her a liar, and she's going to call me a liar, and I can't prove nothing. So that's the problem you have. So you just got to live through this and try to smile and move on. Like I said, I got 2 tenants. One of them has been since January, never paid me a dime. The other has been going on for a couple months, not even living there. But I can't do nothing. I've got 2 properties not making money. But for me, it's not so bad. So I guess the moral of the story that I always try to tell people, try to be nice to your tenants and try to help them get help. Because if they get help, then it's going to help you out. By being confrontational, and then it's like, well, I'm just going to do this. I ain't going to give you nothing. You are not going to get nothing. So just kind of be careful of how you do that. And let me reshare this. Get back to my PowerPoint. I think where am I at right here? So this is stuff from this current slide. So that's that. The second part is the CARES Act money. There is money there. Last month, I told you it was with this certain this certain place in Marion County. It was there, but they decided to put it somewhere else. So the CARES Act money went to the local United Way here in Marion County. It is there. This is an update to that. If you go to this website here, this website, you can get the application, download the application, and give it to your tenant. I think it's like 11-page application, and I'm going to take you to that so people can see it. I'm kind of trying to spend a lot of time on this because I think it's important for people to understand what's going on for the next 3 months. It's imperative that you try to get help for your tenants so they can get these funds to help you out. Because if they really wanted to, they can just give you the letter that this lady gave me and do absolutely nothing. So kind of be careful how you do it. But I'm going to show you this website. So I'm going to keep switching back and forth to kind of be interactive. I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay. So this is that website. That's the URL. Can you see that, Jim? The United Way website. It's United Way. If you pull up that website, just like type that with the CRF at the end, right here, click to download the application. It's going to pull up 11-page application. I'm not going to do it on these screens because it's too much to share. It's like 11 pages, print it off, give it to the person who's in need, have them fill it out. I've got one of my tenants, I think she's getting too much rent. They're just waiting to get processed. She had all of her paperwork. You got to give them a W-9 and all that good stuff. So this one lady is actually working with me. She's getting too much rent. Another lady is getting money through Ocala Housing. But if you are having a person not paying you, then and it's because of and it's COVID related, print this out and give it to them and do whatever you can to help them out because they'll pay. They'll give you 2, 3, 4 months worth of rent if needed. I'm trying to get the other lady to do it, but she's just ignoring me altogether. But that's that whole bad blood there. I don't know if I was wrong to start off, but I didn't think it was going to come up to this. But just be careful how you treat your tenants and kind of be careful. But this is where that CARES Act funds is here locally. It's here with the United Way, and this is the website up top here, and it's also with Ocala Housing locally, but United Way goes all over Marion County no matter what. And if you, and on the paper, on the front of that paper, on this application, when you print it off, and on the back of the application, it's going to have a phone number, and it's going to have a website. The website, it's going to have an email address. The email address is to send them by email, and they'll get it that way. Or you can call it the phone number and do an in-person interview. And that's what I'm telling my tenants to do. My last tenant already got that out of the way. She's already got the funds coming. I'm getting 2 months for her. So helping her out helps me out. So the only way through this virus that you're going to get any kind of money if you're having a problem tenant is to help them out. And if they get help, it's going to help you out. The funds is going to come to me through a W-9, and they're going to pay it out to me. So by helping them, it's helping me. So that's where the money is. Last month, I told you it was someplace else, but this is where it's at now. So I'm going to go back over to my other screen and go to this one. And did anybody have any questions on the COVID-19? That's the only thing I wanted to do. I just wanted to update that. Jim, Eric, if y'all don't have any questions, I'm just going to move on to the other. But anyways, if you got bad tenants, that's where you go. So today, I'm going to talk about terminating a lease in Florida. I want to go ahead and talk about a couple things about me. I'm not an attorney. I think I'm just like a halfwit when it comes to landlording. I've just been doing it a lot. So I'm not gonna tell you anything legal. I'm not gonna tell you to do anything my way or anything like that. I'm gonna tell people what I do during this process. Terminating a lease in Florida. A lease is a binding contract between two people, right? And you gotta follow it. If I break it, they break it and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of legalities to breaking a lease. I'm gonna tell you what I do best practice as being a non-attorney and doing things my way, and it's always worked. I try to evict with money first, but I'm going to talk about that later in a second. So terminating a lease in Florida. And this is going to be a brief overview. When I started coming up with this video, I can speak for 8 hours, no problem, and going through all the ins and outs of terminating a lease. How to do it, why to do it, when to do it, who to go through, and all that good stuff. This is not the place to learn all that stuff, and I'd be the one teaching you, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not any of those guys. I'd just be telling you my way of doing things, and I don't know if it's really correct. So what I want to try to do is show you my thinking and then how I process and where I go for information to help me get through any kind of lease issues that I have. So it's going to be just I only got like 3 slides, and I'm going to show you interactive of how I look up stuff. Why terminating a lease? The first one obviously is a bad tenant. You got a bad tenant, you want to terminate the lease. They got to break something in the rules. And then, the Florida statutes allow you to break the lease with that person and kick them out. Now let's just get away from the COVID-19 issue. If we didn't have a COVID-19, if somebody parked my grass twice in a bad tenant and they're breaking my rules, well, then I can go to the courts. I can file court action with them and get rid of them as a bad tenant. So, so bad tenants, kicking them out. Also be mindful of the Florida statutes, and I'm going to show you the Florida statutes, in the next slide. Bad landlords. The tenant can break a lease with a landlord if you're a bad landlord. Any kind of self-help, meaning that you take off the locks, take off a door, break a window, disable the AC. If you do any of that stuff and they do it correctly through the Florida statutes, then they can break the lease, and they can break the lease with you. Now, breaking a lease, there could be money damages and stuff like that. But just be mindful that you're not the only one that can break a lease. I always do everything the same way, always by the rules, by the book, and all that good stuff. And I'm gonna show you the Florida statutes. I just had a meeting yesterday. I had a new guy come into my rental properties in my maintenance department. So I went and spent an hour giving a longer meeting with my maintenance crew, let them know how I want to do things for the new guy. I do everything by the book. I don't believe in any kind of self-help evictions. There's a maintenance department, there's a management department. If there's something broken, I fix it. That lady who has not paid me rent since January, I actually put in a new AC in her apartment, I think in June. Brand new. Still doesn't matter. I'm still the person. I'm still the same person. I'm always going to be the same person. Well, I don't care what she does. That was the right thing to do. If I left it broken, it would have been a self-help eviction and I could have got in trouble. She'd have to prove it and all that stuff, but still, it was the right thing to do. I was trying to help her out, and maybe she helped me out, and now she's see what happens. But still, don't let these tenants change you as far as what the right thing is to do and the wrong thing to do. Don't let it do that. And also, there's many types of disruptions in life that can actually make you break a lease. Now, most of this stuff in here really isn't even talked about in leases in general. Marriages, deaths, moves, loss of wages, foreclosures, and all that good stuff. It really isn't. But all this stuff has happened to me at one point in time because I deal with 100 people for the last 10, 12 years. I've had everything imaginable. People want to break leases. If somebody bought a house, I am so excited about somebody buying a house and going out on their own and being a new homeowner that I have no problem breaking the lease. I would do whatever I can to get them in that new house because I believe in homeownership. I wish all my tenants would actually start here and then move on, but some people want to just rent forever. And but for the few people who want to buy a house, I really go out of my way to try to help them break the lease, and then I just make it an easy compromise. I try to whatever I can to help them out moving on. But somebody gets married, they're probably going to move to a different place. There's a death in the family. That's just always a bad one. I've had to deal with too many of those here lately. If people's got to move for whatever reasons, there's different reasons of terminating a lease other than bad tenants or bad landlords. So I always say, if any of these other things happen, just be kind and courteous. As long as they're working with you, you work with them. And a lot of times, I just had somebody break the lease the other day. I had to move back to Puerto Rico. Left the place. I thought spotless. I went back. I had to charge him something because there's a couple things broken. But he gave me the keys like he was supposed to. He cleaned out the place. It was clean, fairly good. And there was nothing there. I mean, for most of my, it was pretty good. It only took like a day, day and a half to 2 days to get it rent ready. So I'm just doing backflips. I didn't have to do all that stuff. He was always been a good tenant. So, we parted ways. I gave him back probably more money than I should, but you know what? He's a good guy. He had to go back for whatever reason. And we just left it at that. But always remember, I'm talking about terminating leases, but I'm talking about terminating leases aside from money. But always remember, money is the easiest way to terminate a lease. And in the Florida statutes, money is easy. It's boom, 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 no exceptions. That's what it is. Move on. When you terminate a lease, anything other than money, which really what I'm talking about, it really gets into a he said, she said type thing. So you kind of got to like build a case and make sure that you document things correctly and stuff like that. I'm having a problem with the tenant I just moved in 3 months ago. And right now, she's driving me crazy. I'm just building the case. I'm documenting things. I'm building the case. Hopefully it never gets to this because a lot of times when I have problems like this, it always ends in them not paying me money. And then I just victim out of money and no big deal. But on terminating a lease, you got to kind of like build a case and go from there. So I don't want to get in the weeds with terminating a lease, but I want to show you my process is if I'm thinking about terminating a lease, what I go through. So that leads me to the Florida Statutes 83. Now the Florida Statutes 83, it's a long book, and I'm going to show you interactive what I do. These are the statutes that talk about terminating a lease agreement. It's pretty plain. You can read all this in about 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to be interactive today. I don't want to give any legal advice, and I don't want to tell you what to do. I always think an attorney is a good place. I got an attorney on call. If I got questions, I call her. Not all the time, but somewhat. Makes me seem like I'm bigger than what I really am. But she's a friend of mine, and she does help me out every now and then. But I always go to this Florida statutes. Matter of fact, I went to this Florida statutes to study up for this, and it just jogged my memory about a couple things, about this. But I'm going to show you interactive way of how, if you have any kind of problem, that you can go to the Florida statutes, or this one I'm talking today about terminating a lease agreement. We're going to talk about this one. So I'm going to do another interactive deal. Go back to here. Oh shoot, let me do another share. Florida statutes. I keep this on my computer. I actually have a copy of this in my briefcase, and you can see the Florida statutes, can't you, Jim? Just nod. Okay, so this is for the people who's never actually dealt with the Florida Statutes 83. It's a great read. I've read all of it. I even got it highlighted in there. but it's so much, you don't deal with this on a daily basis. You got to have it on hand all the time. I've got 109 properties that I manage right now. I don't deal with this on a daily basis. It's kind of a rare situation. And I really try to deal with it in a way that not always court action and me yelling and screaming and trying to enforce my will on somebody. I really try to mend people into doing what I want, kind of passively. Now, people have their different ways of approach of management. That's what I try to do. It doesn't always work. You go crazy doing that, but for the most part, it works for me. But if I do have a problem, this is always, I go to my lease first, because that's written and we both signed it, and then I go to the Florida statutes. So in the Florida statutes, part 2 is what we need to be concerned about. That's right in here. Part 2, if you don't have this, find it, put it on your computer, and save it somewhere. If you don't, I've got it on my website. You go to part 2, here is everything you need to be concerned about. Now be mindful, everybody always touts the Florida Statutes 83. This is not the only statute you got to know. There's probably about 5 or 6 or 7 other statutes you really need to know. 714 or 715 is another one. But for the most part, this is going to get you by, and this website will lead you wherever you need to go. And if it gets too much for you, always seek legal advice. Always seek. But this will help you guide you to get it going. And then if you do have to seek legal advice, you can actually talk to them about, you'll be a little bit smarter about what needs to be done. But in here, 8356 is the first one. So here is what I'm talking about. Terminating a lease upon foreclosures, specific terms. Matter of fact, people's called me on this a lot of my investors call me this on foreclosures. I always forget what to do. But this tells you that you have rights to the property. Just got to give them a 30-day notice and just do what they tell you. So if you buy a piece of property, somebody's in there, you actually have rights to kick them out. Now, there's a couple little caveats there. But now, having said that, I always try to work with whoever's there, because it's easier to work with them than to just, throw a court action at them. So I'm just going to briefly go over how I do it. If I want to terminate a lease agreement, I go to 8356, pull it up, and this is the whole thing right here. I read this whole thing. It's not much. This is actually one of the longer ones. But this talks about if the landlord materially fails. That's the first one. It always starts with the landlord being a bad guy. So this tells the tenant, if I'm bad, exactly what they have to do to make me good. And if I don't correct myself, then they can actually terminate my lease. The Florida statute, this thing tells you exactly what to do. And it goes through here. And this is the second one. This is the one we're concerned about. If they fail to comply with 8352 material provisions of the agreement, or are failure to pay reasonable rules or regulations, this tells me how I can get rid of them. And this talks about the 7-day notice, how to serve them. This tells you exact wording of how to make your cert. You are advised that your lease is terminated effective immediately. So if you want to do it immediately, this is how you do it. That's one not right to cure. You 70 not. But this tells you what to do. I don't want to tell you what to do on how to terminate a lease. I want to tell you how to go get the information so you can actually do your own study, and you can do this on your own. Because I do get a lot of calls from a lot of investors, about this stuff. And, I don't do all this stuff on here. I do read this, not enough. I mean, this is something, if you're going to be a landlord, and a professional landlord like me, you should read Florida statutes every year. Every year, because you won't use all of it every year. And it's got so much information in here that you won't get it in one read. And there is a lot of good, useful stuff. It tells you what to do with the properties, how to get them out, the wordings you need to use, and all that good stuff. And you stick with these guidelines, and you put these guidelines in whatever court action you have. They have to go by this because it's a Florida statute, and the judges are guided by the Florida statutes. If the first one is should not be given an opportunity to cure. That's the first one. 7-day, no notice to cure. You just tell them to get out. This here tells you if you want to give them one chance to cure it. If you want to give non-compliance in nature, I got this over here. Let me move this. Should be given an opportunity to cure or deliver, then it's a 7-day notice. If they do it again, then you can file it. I always caution people when you're doing an eviction this way, terminate a lease agreement this way, make sure you have plenty of evidence. I get people all the time to tell me what I should and shouldn't do about this or that. And it's like, okay, Well, she's smoking weed in there. Okay, I can't get in front of a judge and say she's smoking weed. It's just not going to work. Well, I smell it. Well, I smell it too. But I'm going to go in front of a judge and say, hey, she's smoking weed. I can smell it. And what the judge's going to do is turn to her and say, are you smoking weed? She's going to say no. How do you prove it? So make sure that if you're going to go through this whole court action of terminating a lease legally, that you actually have something to back it up. Some kind of verifiable proof. Something other than just you saying this happened. Take a picture of a car parking where you don't want it. I've got pictures at the yin yang. And if you convict by money, always do that. But still, on the same token, just be mindful if you're going to terminate a lease, it's got to be for a specific reason. They got to break something in your rules that you set out in your contract, or they got to break a Florida statute rule. And this kind of tells you, I think up here, this tells you if the landlord materially fails with 83.51. Now this is an interactive website. I can click on that and it's going to go tell me what my obligations are as a landlord. So these obligations, it's going to tell you exactly what to do. Building, housing, health codes, maintain the roofs, windows, doors, floors. You do this, you're good. If they tell you did something bad, you correct it, you're good. Then they can't do it. But this is kind of like an interactive thing. And make sure that this can go all over the place. The tenant has got to do this, tenant's obligations. This is what they've got to do. They got to, go by all these codes. This is a short read. They don't have to do much. They just have to go by this right here. And then as long as they go by your rules and all that good stuff, then they're good. You can't terminate the lease. And then also at the end of it, you can actually do terminate it by non-renewal. Not renew it at the end of whatever term you have. That's easier said to be done because they got to move out, but you can not renew it. I always tell my tenants, I actually had somebody come and yell at me about 2 weeks ago, yelling and screaming and this and that, just moved in, the one I'm having problems with. And I had to calm her down because I had to calm me down because I was really getting mad and frustrated and upset. So I calmed down. I finally got her down and I just told her, in order for a tenancy to work, I have to like you and you have to like me. So if I get to where I don't like you at the end of the lease, I'm not going to renew it. So, but I got to wait a year. And then who knows what they're going to do, but during the year, they're going to mess up and all that good stuff. But anyways, I don't want to get stuck in the weeds. But I wanted to show people not necessarily how to terminate a lease, but how you can go find information to terminate a lease. This termination with specific terms, I'm going to go to this one, termination because this has come up with investors a lot. Agreement upon foreclosure. If the tenant occupying residence permit is subject to foreclosure sale upon issuing the certificate following. This is during a foreclosure though. I'm not sure if a legal transfer. I think if a transfer is different. So I'd study up on that. That's my lack of law. But this is on a foreclosure only. It says foreclosure, I would say that. But this tells you if you buy a foreclosure property, exactly how to get them out. Talks about the tenant is entitled to what protections, you need to read what protections. This kind of goes all over the place. If you start getting in here interacting with this program, you're going to be a better landlord. You're going to redo your contracts to meet this verbiage. If you meet this verbiage with the Florida statutes, this is what the judges look at when they sit in the chambers. They want to see Florida statutes. They want to see that verbiage. They want to make sure, especially for professional. You got something more than 5 properties, you're basically professional. I don't know what they consider professional. I don't know if it's 5 or 10, but over so many, you're considered a professional. So I think you should read this every year just to keep up on it. It took me, I think, a couple hours, maybe a couple hours a night or something. It's not a big read. It's really not. But I read over it and I highlighted the important stuff. And I actually, on the cover page, I actually put where the pages are because it's kind of confusing where things are in. They got weird things stuck in different spots that you really need to know about as far as pest inspections, as far as disposing of personal property and all that good stuff. So, and I'm talking about these 3 statutes, 56, 561, 57, and 571. In here, there's other ways to terminate leases that you can actually find in here. But that's the main ones I just wanted to talk about. So I really want to do 2 things tonight is do a COVID-19. And I don't really come up with anything crazy. I don't know. I don't know where I come up with talking about what I talk about. I just seen something about terminating a lease and I read it online it kind of got me thinking about terminating leases. Not many people really know how to terminate a lease. I'm one that I'm kind of, I'm not that great at it, to be honest with you. But I do know how to create the action and get them out. I get tenants out. I don't necessarily have to terminate the lease. I get tenants out of my property I don't want there. And when I say I get them out, this is talking about terminating a lease agreement. Terminating a lease agreement to me is specific legal action to terminate it. Like you can terminate it friendly with you and him. What comes up a lot with me, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, both on a lease, and they split up. I have to get somebody off that lease. So usually I come up with a compromise. Somebody comes in and I terminate that lease with them. I will do a legal termination with them. Say, hey, you have no more rights to that property. I'm terminating the lease. She's taking it over. And I'll have her come in, sign that, she's taking on the new property. And I do that for legality reasons. So he can't come back and break into the property, or she, or whatever. So, terminating a lease doesn't always mean it's just something that you need to do. I'd always advise that always make sure the lease is with the people who's there. If a boyfriend, girlfriend wants, the man moves out, and she doesn't want him back, well, then he's got to come in. He's got to terminate that lease with me, and I'll do that, happily. It doesn't bother me. I just want to make sure it's done right. I can't just write him off the contract and say that's good, because it's not the legal way of doing it. So really what I wanted to talk about is really how you can find the information to terminate a lease and what your legal rights are as terminating a lease. Terminating a lease, you got to keep up with certain obligations. They've got certain obligations. You just got to stick with that. And then I'm going to talk I got one more power slide, a new share I'm going to talk about. And then start from current slide. So I already kind of briefly talked about it. Other means than court action, than courts terminating leases. So to me, terminating a lease is a legal action to me. Either they come in and sign it, or I go to the courts and I get the courts to terminate the lease and get them out of there. But I try every which way possible to get them out of my property. That's why I say, if I don't want them there, I just get them out of property. I don't consider it a lease. I just consider, how can I get these people out of my property? I would do anything I possibly can other than court action, because it takes longer to terminate a lease. I'll let that ring in the background. But it takes longer to terminate a lease the way I'm talking about. Money's always the quickest, and it takes like 6 weeks now. Do it the other way, it could take 7, 8, 9 weeks. So if you can save yourself a lot of headache, educate the people on an eviction process. Once I start an eviction process, it's going to be on the record forever. Whether I stop the eviction or not, it's still there. You can't get rid of it. Offer them any kind of money back to get them out if they're that bad. I don't say advertise this, but I have given up half deposit many a times to get them out. Save me lots of money. I can care less. I don't feel like they got over on me. I feel like I got over on them, because they can do me more harm to me by sitting there and letting me go through the whole court action. I've actually paid weekly motels for one guy. He didn't want to move, had nowhere to go, wasn't going to move. I said, hey man, what if I go do 2 weeks up in a hotel? I gave him $200 and 2 weeks in a hotel. It cost me, I don't know, something like $600, $700, I forgot. But he got on my property, I got the keys, and he's done. And I didn't have to go through the courts. And the property was in pretty good shape. I mean, I felt like I won. People think I did wrong, but no, he moved out. He's not my property. I terminated a lease without going through any kind of legal action. So I'm okay with it. I do believe you always got to be courteous, because you never know. Case in point, I don't always follow my own instructions. I got a little snippy with the lady, I think about a month ago, the one I'm having pause with now. And it's coming back to bite me. I kind of wish I wasn't snippy then. I wish I was kind of nice to her. Because then I can go to her and say, hey, here's this, try to get money. Because if she gets money, I get money. But, now she's just going to sit there and just kind of, try to do as much harm to me as she possibly can. And she can, because, the CDC is letting her. So just be careful of how you act. I understand this is a business. I don't, there should be a right way and wrong way to do it. I have no problem exchanging out that AC for that lady, because that was the right thing for me to do. I don't want to be a mean, awful person just because somebody else is that way. So I don't want to make this any kind of, so this presentation wasn't meant to be any kind of legal advice on how to terminate a lease. It's really to get people to look at the Florida statutes a little bit more, understanding what their rights are, the tenant's rights, understanding what your rights are, understanding that a lease is a legal binding contract between two people. You can't just arbitrarily tell people to move and this and that. There is a legal way to terminate the lease, and you got to have legal grounds to terminate the lease, and it could be kind of complex, way more than I can give in a 30, 40-minute little talk. And it's above my pay grade anyways. I'm just a landlord. I'm not a legal guy. It's really, I'm trying to guide people to look at that Florida statutes, to get more interactive with that and stuff like that. So that's pretty much all I wanted to do. I wanted to update the CDC and just talk about my thought process on terminating leases. Did anybody have any questions?
No, I think that's good stuff, James. I don't look at that stuff near as much as I should.
Nobody does. Nobody does.
I just tell Marcia to figure it out.
Yeah. I tell you this though. Yeah. I tell you this though. I was reading this because I figured I just pre-read because I was going to go through this whole thing. Hey, I'm going to tell you how to terminate a lease. And then I started reading and I see how complex it is. Like, okay, let me hold on. I don't want to teach anybody nothing. It is way complex than I can go through it, but it is pretty complex. But as I'm reading it, I'm starting to find other stuff in there that I knew was in there that it's in a different spot. You know, on one of those things, it talks about pest inspection. And then another one has a link to, anyways, you start clicking through there. If you do it more often than not, you're going to find other things. Oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that.
Right.
And that Florida statutes is powerful. It's strong. It tells you exactly. It gives landlords all kinds of rights and powers. It actually gives tenants rights and powers, but they don't read it. So you know they don't ever do it correctly. So if they never do it correctly, they don't ever read it, then they don't know how. In front of my contract, I tell them the Florida statutes. If I'm having really, I did this to two people. I'm really having bad problems with a tenant, and they want to debate with me about what the rules and regulations are. I will print off that whole Florida statutes. I'll staple it, I'll put it in an envelope, and I'll put it on the door. It's like, that is your legal guide. That's what I'm guided by. I want them to have every tool I have, so when I get in front of a judge, there won't be no excuse. I gave you the Florida statutes, that's what it is, and go from there. Now, luckily, I've been doing this for about 12 years as a commercial, as a big business. I think, you know, as 40 plus properties. I'm up, you know, so I don't get stuck in the weeds like people think a person like me would. I really don't. I evicted more in my first 2 or 3 years than I had my last 6 or 8. Because I found out better ways of doing things, better way of saving money, better way of getting through situations and issues and stuff like that. I have the power to evict every one of I can evict, well, not now, but I can evict a lot of people. I can do a lot of harm to people. It does me no good. So now I try to compromise. I try to work with them. I try to help them out. And honestly, I'm doing really well. I got mostly 90% low income tenants, and they're great people. So, you know, I have no problem getting my way with these tenants. They work with me, I work with them. But with that, I'm gonna leave it. If nobody has any more questions, I wanna make this kind of quick. Hopefully Carl will send this out so people can at least read the first part for the CDC. Because I want everybody to understand the CDC, or the United Way, is where you get funds for your tenants so they can get help through this virus situation. And if they get help, you get help. So with that, if Eric or Jim or Marcia don't have any questions, I will stop it here. And I appreciate you guys coming.
Thanks, buddy. It was good catching up. Appreciate the info.
Yeah, appreciate you joining in. I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can.
Good. We enjoy it.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Jim.
All right. We'll see you soon.
You too. Bye. Bye, Eric. I'm going to end the meeting. And if you don't have any questions, I'm going to end the meeting and kind of go from there.